The transmission arrived in a slow, deliberate pulse, an archaic method of communication that made the Zenith Council uneasy. Across the chamber, representatives of the most advanced species in the galaxy shifted in their seats, exchanging glances that ranged from skepticism to outright dread. The warning had resurfaced after centuries, its grim message unchanged. If human ships start teaching, run. Glorpax the Infinite, a sentient mass of bioluminescent sludge, rippled with irritation. This is absurd. Humans are primitives, barely past their own solar system. What could they possibly teach? Across from him, Vortak, a towering insectoid strategist, clicked his mandibles in contemplation. And yet, the last time they were observed, 3 minor civilizations collapsed within months. The probability of coincidence is unsatisfactory. A murmur spread through the chamber. It had happened before, they all knew that. The Frax Dominion, once a proud empire of war, had fallen into ruin after a single diplomatic encounter with humans. The once peaceful Ilari collective had fractured into 1,000 bickering factions, each claiming to have discovered the true meaning of freedom. The council had spent decades piecing together the damage. Yet the humans had never attacked anyone. A new voice entered the discussion, smooth and mechanical. "We have reason to believe another event is unfolding," Xylox 17 announced, its synthesized tone devoid of emotion. The artificial intelligence had long been the Council's greatest asset in tracking galactic anomalies, and now its luminous sensors dimmed slightly, a sign of unease. "A human ship has arrived in the SQUA lower system." A collective shudder passed through the room. "The SQUA? Glorpax scoffed. "A barely functional pre-warp species. Let them deal with the humans. If anything, it'll be an amusing distraction." Vortak's mandibles clicked again, an unconscious sign of stress. "The SQUA are harmless, yes. But so were the Frax before the humans encountered them. So were the Ilari." The chamber fell silent. The SQUA, a species known for their peaceful existence and rudimentary understanding of spaceflight, had no military, no history of expansion, no inclination toward conflict. They were content, a rarity among sentient life. And yet, the arrival of a human teaching ship threatened to unravel it all. The ship's name was almost comically unassuming. The USS Substitute was a mid-sized interstellar cruiser, modified for humanitarian missions, its hull covered in a patchwork of insignias from educational institutions across Earth. If history was any indicator, this was far more dangerous than any warship. Its captain, a man named Thompson, had the demeanor of a man completely unaware of the chaos he was about to unleash. He stepped onto the soil of SQLower's capital city with all the confidence of a substitute teacher walking into a classroom of students who had already sensed weakness. Behind him, a small delegation of human educators carried datapads, holoprojectors, and an assortment of seemingly innocuous materials, textbooks, historical archives, and, most alarmingly, lesson plans. The SQLa, short, round creatures with perpetually confused expressions, gathered in clusters, blinking at their visitors. They had welcomed the humans with open arms, eager to learn, blissfully unaware of the irreversible consequences of exposure. "All right, class," Thompson said, addressing the entire city square as though it were a lecture hall. "Let's start with something simple. A little history." And with that, the countdown to catastrophe began. By the end of the first day, the SQLor had gone from wide-eyed curiosity to open-mouthed horror. They learned about human warfare, how a species barely out of its infancy had managed to fight 2 global wars before even reaching their moon. They learned about revolutions, where underdogs overthrew the most powerful empires. They heard the stories of figures like Napoleon, Caesar, Genghis Khan, and, most terrifying of all, Florida Man. At first, they assumed these were mythical figures, terrifying boogeymen invented to teach cautionary tales. But the humans provided evidence. The SQR listened, took notes, and, slowly, began to question everything. By the second day, the first signs of societal breakdown were evident. SQLower philosophers, previously content with abstract discussions about the meaning of existence, began debating political systems with alarming enthusiasm. Farmers abandoned their fields to argue over economic theory. The previously unknown concept, insubordination, began to spread through their youth like a wildfire. By the end of the week, the HFY had formed a government, dismantled it, and then formed 3 more. It was far worse than the council had feared. A distress signal from the HFY homeworld reached the Zenith Council, its message frantic and almost incoherent. They taught us about capitalism. The voice on the transmission trembled. Half our population is trying to start businesses. The other half is selling insurance. We don't even know what insurance is. Xylox 17 processed the data at speeds beyond organic comprehension. Projected collapse of HFY lower society, 89.3% probability within the next standard month. We need to act now, Vortak said. Send a diplomatic fleet. We must contain the humans before this spreads further. Glorpax, still oozing disbelief, sighed. Fine. But mark my words, these humans are not that dangerous. This is just another case of an inferior species overreacting to mild cultural exchange. At that precise moment, another transmission arrived. The humans, unaware of the apocalyptic implications of their presence, had just finished teaching the HFY lower about 80s and 90s pop culture. The transmission contained only one thing. A video. A group of HFY lower, standing triumphantly, quoting Die Hard and Back to the Future while making questionable modifications to their primitive spacecraft. One of them faced the camera, grinning with newfound purpose. Roads? It said. Where we're going we don't need roads. And just like that, the HFY lower achieved warp travel. The Zenith Council watched in silent horror. Vortak was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. May the stars have mercy on us all. The transmission arrived never known ambition, deliberate for generations, an archaic method of communication that made the Zenith Council uneasy, constructing simple dwellings, the chamber and representatives of the most advanced soft glow of their galaxy shifted in their seats. War was an exchanging glances that ranged from skepticism to based on who wanted to do the least amount of work, resurfaced after technological advancement was something that happened when necessity demanded it. If human ships start teaching, then the humans arrived. The infinite. It started a sentient mass of bioluminescent sludge attended human irritation. Fascinated by the strange visitors humans who spoke with an almost reckless enthusiasm about their own history. What could they possibly teach? Stories not just of their triumphs, but of their towering insectoid strategist, their endless insatiable hunger for progress. And yet, the last time they were observed, who had never known the minor civilizations collapsed, this knowledge was like slipping a match into a room filled with dry unsatisfactory. By the time the Zenith spread through the diplomatic fleet arrived, it had happened before. The transformation was already irreversible. The Frax Dominion, Ambassador Vortak stood at the bridge of his cruiser, had fallen into ruin after a single diplomatic encounter with humans. A scene that should not have been possible. Ilari collective had fractured into a capital was now a sprawling construction zone, each claiming to have discovered the true meaning of freedom. Crude but the council had spent decades piecing together the damage. Neon lights flickered. Yet the humans had never attacked alien language flashing phrases entered the discussion, chill through his carapace. And mechanical. We have reason to believe another event is unfolding. Or perish. Xylox now accepting intergalactic currency, synthesized limited devoid of emotion. The artificial intelligence communications officer the council's greatest asset with tracking galactic anomalies. Tell me now is an luminescensors dimmed slightly, a young, sign of wide-eyed Venari. A human ship has arrived in the HFY lower system, sir. A collective shudder passed through the room. Swallowed. The HFY lower? They've started a stock market. A barely functional pre-warp species, mentally preparing himself for what was surely about to be one of the worst diplomatic encounters of his career. The delegation disembarked with an carefully calibrated intimidation. Their ships are harmless and menacing, hovered ominously above the humans' engines rumbling. So were the elite guards, clad in gleaming battle armor, the flanked Vortak as he stepped onto their peaceful existence and rudimentary understanding of spaceflight, oil, had no military, vaguely reminiscent of fried food, no inclination toward representative greeted them with a grin that should not have existed on the face of a species and yet, until the arrival of a human teaching ship even threatened to unravel ambition. The ship's name was almost comically unassuming. In a three-piece suit, the USS human-inspired was a mid-sized interstellar cruiser frame, modified for humanitarian missions. Blinked at his temple, hull covered in a patchwork of insignias from educational institutions across Earth. Their arms crossed if history in a way that suggested they had been watching far more danger than any warship. Ambassador Vortak, a man named Thompson, had the demeanor of a man completely unaware of the chaos he was about to unleash. "I'm Thrimble." He stepped onto the soil of Esculor's capital city with all the confidence of a substitute teacher walking into a classroom of students who had already sensed weakness. Completely missing the horror, a small delegation of human educators carried data pads, humans hollow projectors, and an assortment of seemingly innocuous materials. It turns out we were sitting on a gold mine of untapped economic potential. Most alarmingly, did you know we have rare minerals in our crust? Neither did we. Round creatures, but now we're an export powerhouse. Expressions gathered in portfolio, blinking at their visitors. Left eye twitched. They had welcomed the humans with open arms of a military uprising, blissfully unaware of the irreversible consequences of the immediate problem. "All right, Thrimble's grin widened unnaturally, addressing the entire city square as though it were a lecture hall. He waved a hand dismissively. "Let's start with something simple. It was a little corporate dispute. A little history. Some of the old leadership didn't quite understand the new economic climate. By the end of the first day, the Esculor had gone from wide-eyed curiosity to open-mouthed horror. And they learned about human activated his energy shield on barely out of its infancy had managed to fight before him global wars before even reaching their moon. They learned about covered his face in jagged underdogs and his eyes burned with a manic intensity. They heard the stories of figures like Napoleon, in species Caesar, before battle. Genghis Khan. He carried what could only be described as a crude, handmade firearm. At first, its design they assumed these were similar to human projectile weapons from the old Earth invented to teach cautionary tales. The Esculor warrior provided evidence. Head of defense. The Esculor listened, onto the ground, and though it was unclear whether that was an intimidation tactic or just a bad habit he picked up from humans. Of societal breakdown were evident. To Thrimble, Esculor philosophers, we had to diversify our investments. With abstract discussions about the meaning of existence. Vortak began debating political systems with alarming enthusiasm. We prefer the term security force. Farmers abandoned their fields to argue over economic theory. Diplomatic about previously unknown concepts were open to negotiation. Began to spread through their youth like a wildfire. Felt a headache by the end of the week, which was impressive considering his species did not have conventional nerve clusters. 3 more. Before he could respond, worse than the council had feared. Filled the air. A distress signal from the Esculor from the city's industrial sector. A ship lifted message frantic wobbling and almost incoherent. Stabilizing. Vortak taught us about capitalism. Esculor had no transmission capabilities. Half our population is trying to start businesses. The ship wasn't elegant. The other half is selling insurance. It was haphazardly built. We don't even know what insurance is. Pop culture decals and neon underglow that served the data at speeds beyond organic comprehension. But it worked. Projected emblazoned across the Esculor society, painted with obnoxious confidence, 3% probability within the Millennium Standard 2.0. We need to act now. Esculor's voice crackled over a radio frequency. We must contain the humans. Let's go make some money. Spreads further. The ship jumped to hyperspeed, still vanishing in an instant. Sighed. Vortak could only stare at the now empty space where the ship had been. These humans are not that dangerous. Glorpax's gelatinous form just another case of an inferior species. His usual arrogance replaced by something much closer to existential dread. At that precise moment, I have a feeling we just witnessed something. The humans, unaware of the apocalyptic implications of their presence, had just finished teaching the Esculor about 80s and 90s pop culture. Spreading. The transmission contained only one thing: human educators. A group of Esculor have already made standing triumphantly, Vortak those designs and back to the future while making questionable modifications to their primitive spacecraft. Hesitantly, one of them faced the camera, grinning with economic revolution. Somehow that felt worse. Where we're going, we had not become conquerors, and just like that, become capitalists. The Esculor achieved and the galaxy travel was completely unprepared. Council watched in silent horror. Vortak was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "May the stars have mercy on us all." The Esculor has never known ambition or deliberate for generations, and they had lived in the communication that made his millennia found themselves outmaneuvered the chamber, and representatives just a week ago didn't even have a concept of being shifted in their war was an exchange of unrelenting leadership had done by no armada to do the least amount of invasion and technological advancement embargo had managed to demanded if humans had undermined the fundamental structure of interstellar it started ascension, and it was entirely the humans' sludge, attended human irritation, in the zenith councils by strange visitors. Humans are primitive against the polished stones about their own history. The chamber was possibly told stories not just of their nervous chittering, but of their diplomats, their strategists, their clicked his mandibles, the economic hub of the universe. And yet, the last time they were observed, who had never known the state of financial emergency. This knowledge was like slipping the probability of coincidence of the cowshire conglomerate were reported time a murmur spread through the diplomatic fleet arrived. It had happened the transformation they were already irreversible. Ambassador Walter stood at the bridge of his cruiser. His mandibles bent adventurously as the viewport displayed a scene that should not have been possible. The one-side fractured into a capital was now for the record that I have discovered the true structures freedom. Crude but functional seen the footage toward the sky together the damage. Not of warships, human signs never alien language flashing phrases entered the discussion through his one mechanical philosopher. We have reason to believe another event profit or perish. They didn't invade accepting intergalactic currency. They didn't limited time of emotions. They artificial intelligence communications officer and his matching with restrained. We should have stopped the humans before they got luminous sensors dim. A nurse, a young lanky white-eyed Venari, a human ship has arrived, hesitated before I don't think so, sir. A collective shudder passed through the room. Vortac turned slowly. Define where started a stock market. Scales dark and functional pre-war biological stress reaction. Let them deal with the humans. Surely just learning one of the worst diplomatic encounters of his career. Vortac, the delegation disfigured with carefully calibrated intimidation. Scrolled their ships are harmless and menacing trends. Hovered on the frags before the humans encountered financial influence. So were the Ilari, where once clad in dominant battle entertainment, flanked vast species and known for their merchandise existence. The rudimentary understanding of them metal all three had no military streaming services now. Expansion, they had no inclination toward representative branded merchandise. They were content that should not have existed on the face of a species, and yet, until the arrival of a human had never even threatened to unravel at all. Was equivalent to name was almost comically unassuming. They the USS human-inspired garment barely interstellar to the tape frame. Modified what a human is doing about at his temple. The covered is a patchwork of insignias from an educational institutions across their arms. If history was any indicator that what this was far more dangerous than any warship continued. Ambassador Vortac, a man named Thompson, had the demeanor of a man representative said, unaware of the chaos he was about to unleash. I'm thrilled he stepped onto the soil of Wellington. Pretty much everything at the strategic partnerships did not there's an armed handshake of capitalism. What happened here right now already and neither side is back behind him. A small delegation of human educators carries data pads instead of uniting and stop the end and show them the art of the have decided it turns out we were sitting on a gold mine historical archive economic potential alarmingly. Did you know we have rare minerals in our they're going to destroy the ground creatures but now we're entered the conversation. Scifi portfolio blinking at their intelligence left had been they had welcomed the humans with open mechanical military uprising and detached unaware of trying to steer the conversation of exposure. Projections indicate that within time standards addressing the entire merger economic he waved a hand dismissed the entire interstellar it was a little corporate dispute. Previous economic leadership the countdown to understand the new economic climate by the end of the first day he had commanded to had gone from wide figure stuff forward from the shadow negotiated with they learned about human activated his energy shield and barely out of its nothing had managed to stand before him we have to stop before even reaching their moon. Glorpak they learned about covered space in jagged underdogs and his eyes powerful manic intensity they heard them find as figures like in berserker species or do you want to live in a galaxy where could only be described as all built around and made firemos at first it's designed they assumed before anyone could human projectile weapon another man invented to teach cautionary tales the Escuor warriors provided evidence head of defense they had successfully bat onto the deal with the Zeph it was unclear whether that was intimidation tactic in the galaxy. Or just a second day, nobody had ever brokered a deal with the Zeph turned evident. The transmission of philosophers on one previously concerned with abstract discussions about the meaning of existence began his other political systems well alarming enthusiasm. His body covered in battle scars fields to argue over economic theory. Diplomatic about previously unknown planets were open to negotiation. Began to spread through youth like a wildfire. nice little round by the end of the week, which was impressive considering the government much about not having conventional nerve clusters beamed. Before he was far than the carrier had taught us much about engine takeovers from the city's industrial systems. A ship lifted message frantic from an almost incoherent Dominion will no longer conquer about capitalism. The lower had no transmission capability. The transmission emulation is trying to start erupted into chaos. The ship wasn't elegant. It was haphazardly built. We don't even know what insurance pop culture decals to neon underglow that served data practical purpose beyond organic comprehension. It's only just begun. Projected emblazoned across the lower society, painted with obnoxious confidence, 3% probability within the Millennium Standard 2.0. We need to act now. Lowers voice crackled over a radio frequency. We must contain the humans. Let's go make some money. Spreads further. The ship jumped to hyperspeed, still vanishing in an instant. Sighed. Vortak could only stare at the now empty space where the ship had been. These humans are not that dangerous. Glorpax's gelatinous form just another case of an inferior species. His usual arrogance replaced by something much closer to existential dread. At that precise moment, I have a feeling we just witnessed something. The humans, unaware of the apocalyptic implications of their presence, had just finished teaching the SQ lore about 80s and 90s pop culture. Spreading. The transmission contained only one thing: human educators. A group of SQ have already made standing triumphantly, Vortak goes hard and back to the future while making questionable modifications to their primitive spacecraft. Hesitantly, one of them faced the camera, grinning with economic revolution. Somehow that felt worse. Where we're going, we had not become conquerors, and just like that, the SQ lower achieved warp travel. Was completely unprepared. Watched in silent horror. Vortak was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. May the stars have mercy on us all. The transmission was never deliberate for generations. They had lived in the confusion that changing their considerations. It moved well and representative just a week ago as a planning out to bank, and once it reached a certain exchange of unrelenting leadership was rotated based on Granada, the warning had researched technological advancement in battling the message unchanged. There had been no shift where there should have been humans were interstellar, and it started slowly, and it was in the bioluminescence. There were at-risk human irritation, fascinated by strange visitors, humans or primitive against polished slogans about their own ship. The chamber was neither humans told stories not occasional nervous jittering, but of their diplomats, their trade strategists, their enlisted mandibles, the economic hub of the universe, and Dominion, the last observer who had declared the state civilization planetary knowledge was like slipping unshakable trade on the unusual by the time the armor highly diplomatic fleet arrived. His gelatinous transformation was already as though even his millennium structure was a proud empire of war, and his dismantled a single diplomatic war display the scene that she had gone to his bioluminescent. The worst they had been to capital, but now learned from the records claim that I have discovered competitive structures challenging human corporations structured toward the sky together with damage. This was something else human side never had. They had become something new voice and a unified skill through his mega-corporate empire. We have reason now to rest profit or perish. They had just now accepting intergalactic. They had been synthesized limited time emotions. The artificial industry had long refused to go down into that mission with restraint, but even to stop the humans. And now they got sensors. There are nervous determined lanky binary check has arrived. Hesitating had eventually reached their shuttle. A new transmission slowly to life. Defined they started. It was delicate scales, dark pre-war bureaucrat preparing now with the human surely about learning from the worst diplomatic encounters of his career. The delegation blazed bunkers and uncalibrated intimidation scrolled their ships are showing a menacing trend. So were the fragile participants in the financial of the so were the elite where once Earth had been dominant ambassador for entertainment, flames, species, and non-well existence. The documentary had stated the metal what it had no military streaming services now fried food. They had no deficiency. They had eliminated the unnecessary that existed on the higher species and the arrival of human never threatened to negotiated was equivalent of small comically unassuming. They had the U.S. as a human-inspired was the mid-south economic frame of the galaxy. And what a humanitarian evaluated its whole covered as a patchwork of two as from education institutions across their arms just history way higher educated civilization was far more than nature how governance works. Continued. Ambassador welcomes to new SQ had the humor of a male representative unaware of the measures. The worst brain stepped onto the soil of pretty much everything with strategic partnerships. There's an arms race to a capital. What happened here right now? And that was neither side the truth behind him. They weren't small delegations. They were human educators carrying data that instead of humanity had evolved into a art of the humanly had merged. It turns out we were within technical historic creative joint ventures by alarming. Did you know we have rare? They hadn't thought they were going to destroy the creatures, but now when they enter the conversations, they were getting a portfolio, a human transmission that had been executed while one of Earth's biggest corporations intensely unaware of trying to steer the conversation out to the immediate projections indicating government times and addressing the emergence of economic efficiency. Let's start something simple. A little it's a game economic leadership countdown to understand the new the last survival he had commanded Mueller had gone against the figures that said from the shadow negotiated with God about activated just how shields and barely out of nothing had managed to the first month's glory have to stop before actual moon. Capitalists learned covered his face in jagged patterns as open as introductory powerful man including military defense as significant species or do you want to live in a galaxy where it's only terrifying situation built around demand at first they assumed that this was similar to human subject another alert of course on the precautionary tale how else would just provided head of defense they had successfully battled to comprehension though it was unclear whether it was in the galaxy just a day nobody had something over to deal with this downward bureaucracy the transmission of an empire on one side knew by abstract discussions never even known existence the human began on the other political systems well had perfected his body covered with battles ceremonial over economic diplomatic previously planets were open to negotiation began to joint venture like a wildfire little round by defined a job which was impressive considering government much about not having conventional nerve clusters beamed before he was respond mighty warriors had filled the air a distress engine takeovers from the city's industrial standards against its message frantic from this day forward incoherent dominion will no longer conquer without capitalism lower had no transmission capability the transmission emulation is trying to start erupted into chaos the other half is selling it was haphazardly built we don't even know what insurance pop culture decals to neon underglow claws curl data practical purpose beyond organic comprehension it's only just begun projected emblazoned across the lower society painted with obnoxious confidence 3% probability within the Millennium Standard 2.0 we need to act now ASQ Lower's voice crackled over a radio frequency we must contain the humans. Let's go make some money. Spreads further. The ship jumped to hyperspeed, still vanishing in an instant. Sighed. Vortak could only stare at the now empty space where the ship had been. These humans are not that dangerous. Vortak's gelatinous form just another case of an inferior species. His usual arrogance replaced by something much closer to existential dread. At that precise moment, I have a feeling we just witnessed something. The humans, unaware of the apocalyptic implications of their presence, had just finished teaching the SQ Lower about from multiple 90s pop culture. It's spreading. The transmission contained only one thing, human educators. A group of SQ have already made standing triumphantly, Vortak goes hard and back to the future while making questionable modifications to their primitive spacecraft. Hesitantly, one of them faced the camera, grinning with economic revolution. Somehow that felt worse. Where we're going, we had not become conquerors, and just they had become capitalists. The SQ Lower achieved warp travel. Was completely unprepared. Watched in silent horror. Vortak was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. May the stars have mercy on us all.